Chapter 1. A Lady in Distress. It had begun to rain an hour ago, a fine driving mist, with the sky grey above. The gentleman riding beside the chaise surveyed the clouds placidly. "Faith, it's a wonderful climate," he remarked to no one in particular. The grizzled serving man, who rode some paces to the rear, spurred up to him. "Best put up for the night, sir," he grunted. "There's an inn a mile or two on." The window of the chaise was let down with a clatter, and a lady looked out. "Child, you'll be wet," she said to her cavalier. "How far to Norman Cross?" The serving man rode up close to the chaise. "Another hour, Mum. I'm saying we'd best put up for the night." "I'd as soon make Norman Cross," said the gentleman, "for all it's plaguily damp." "There's an inn close by, as I remember," the servant repeated, addressing himself to the lady. "En avant, then. Produce me the inn," the lady said. "Give you joy of your England, Peter, my little man." The gentleman laughed. "Oh, it's a comforting spot, Kate." The inn came soon into sight, a square white house glimmering through the dusk. There were lights in the windows, and a post-chaise drawn up in the court before it. The gentleman came lightly down from the saddle. He was of medium height and carried himself well. He had a neat leg encased in a fine riding boot, and a slender hand in an embroidered gauntlet. There was straightway a bustle at the inn. An ostler came running, mine host appeared in the porch with a bow and a scrape, and a waiting man sped forth to assist in letting down the steps of the chaise. "2 bedchambers for myself and my sister," said the gentleman. "Dinner and a private room." Consternation was in the landlord's face. "Bedchambers, sir? Yes, on the instant. Polly, the 2 best bedchambers, and fires to be lit in them." A serving-maid went scuttling off. "Sir, the private room—" Mine host bowed and spread a pair of deprecating hands. "But this moment, sir, it was bespoken by a lady and a gentleman travelling north." He looked slyly and cast down his eyes. "But they stay only for dinner, sir, and if your honour and the lady would condescend to the coffee-room, there's never a soul likely to come tonight. It will be private enough." There was a rustle of skirts. My lady came down from the chaise with one hand on her servant's shoulder. "The coffee-room or any other, so I get out of this wet," she cried, and swept into the inn with her cavalier behind her. They found themselves straight in a comfortable, large room. There was a table set and a wood fire burning in the hearth. A door led out into a passage at the back where the stairs rose steeply, and another to one side giving on to the tap-room. A trim girl in a mob-cap brought more candles and dropped a shy curtsy to the lady. "If you please, my lady, should I take your ladyship's cloak? Your ladyship's Abigail?" "Alack, the creature's not with me," mourned Madam Kate. "Take the cloak up to my chamber, child." "So." She put back the hood from her head and untied the strings round her throat. The cloak was given to the maid. Madame stood up in a taffety gown of blue spread over a wide hoop. She wore her fair ringlets en demi-toilette, free from powder, with a blue ribbon threaded through, and a couple of curls allowed to fall over her shoulder. The maid thought her a prodigiously lovely lady, and bobbed another curtsy before she went away with the cloak. My lady's brother gave his 3-cornered hat into his servant's keeping, and struggled out of his greatcoat. He was much of his sister's height, a little taller, perhaps, and like enough to her in appearance. His hair was of a darker brown, confined demurely at the neck by a black riband, and his eyes showed more grey than blue in the candlelight. Young he seemed, for his cheek was innocent of all but the faintest down, but he had a square shoulder and a good chin, rounded, but purposeful enough. The landlord, following him into the coffee-room, was profuse in apologies and obeisances, for he recognized a member of the quality. The lady wore a fine silk gown, and Mr. Marriott a modish coat of brown velvet, with gold lacing and a quantity of Mechlin lace at his throat and wrists. A pretty pair in all, with the easy ways of the quality and a humorous look about the eyes that made them much alike. The landlord began to talk of capons and his best burgundy, and was sent off to produce them. Miss Marriott sat down by the fire and stretched one foot in its buckled shoe to the blaze. There was a red heel to her shoe, and marvellous embroidered clocks to her silken stockings. "So, said Miss Marriott. "How do you, my Peter?" "I don't melt in a shower of rain, I believe," Peter said, and sat down on the edge of the table, swinging one booted leg. "No, faith, child, there's too much of you for that." The gentleman's rich chuckle sounded. "I'm sufficiently substantial, in truth," he remarked. He drew out his golden enamelled snuff-box from one of his huge coat pockets, and took a pinch with an air, delicately shaking the ruffles of lace back from his wrists. A ruby ring glowed on one of his long fingers, while on the other hand he wore a big gold seal ring. A smile crept up into his eyes and lurked at the corners of his mouth. "I'd give something to know where the old gentleman is," he said. "Safe enough, I'll be bound," Madam answered, and laughed. "It's the devil himself, I believe, and will appear in London to snap his fingers under the noses of all King George's men. Fie, Kate, my poor respected papa." Mr. Marriott was not shocked. He fobbed his snuff-box and put it away. A faint crease showed between his brows. For all he named London, egad, 'tis like his impudence. It's odds he's gone to France. "I don't permit myself to hope too much," said Miss Marriott, with a smile at once dreamy and a little impish. "He'll be there to lead us another of his mad dances. If not, I've a mind to try our own fortunes." "In truth, I've a kindness for the old gentleman," said Mr. Marriott pensively. "His dances lead somewhere, to lost causes." There was a hint of bitterness in the tone. Mr. Marriott looked up. "Aye, you've taken it to heart." "Not I." Kate jerked a shoulder as though to shake something off. "We went into it. Egad, why did we go into it?" "Ask the old gentleman," said Mr. Marriott, a slow smile creeping up again. "He had a loyal fervour, belike." Kate drew down the corners of her mouth. "It's a pleasing image." "He meant it for a beau geste, I dare swear, and well, I suppose we went willy-nilly into the net." "I don't regret it. The old gentleman meddled in Saxe's affairs, but we came out of that net." "That was in the nature of adventuring. This—" Kate paused. I hate lost causes. It was different." "For you?" Mr. Marriott lifted an eyebrow. "Did you want the prince, child?" "We fought for him while it lasted. He had the right. But now it's over. And the butchers made a shambles of the north, and there are those who have died on Tower Hill, while we try our fortunes, and the old gentleman weaves us a fresh net. I believe I'll turn respectable. Alack, we were made for sobriety," said Mr. Marriott. Came the landlord and a serving-maid with dinner. Covers were laid, and a cork drawn. Miss Marriott and her brother sat down to fat capons and a generous pasty. They were left presently toying with sweetmeats and their wine. The maid bore off all that remained of the capons through the door that led into the passage. The door was left ajar, and allowed a glimpse of another door across the passageway. From behind it came the sound of a lady's voice raised in protest. "I won't, I tell you," it said. "I won't." There came the sound of a deeper voice, half coaxing, half bullying. Then the lady cried out again on an hysterical note of panic. "I won't go with you. You shan't elope with me against my will. Take me home. Oh, please, Mr. Markham, take me home." Miss Marriott looked at her brother. He got up, and he went unhurriedly to the door and stood listening. The man's voice was raised now in anger. "By God, Letty, you shan't fool me like that!" Following on a crash from behind the closed door, as of a fist banged on the table, came a choked, imploring murmur. "No!" barked the man's voice. "If I have to gag you to Gretna, you'll go, Letty. Do you think I'm fool enough to let you slip through my fingers now?" Mr. Marriott turned his head. "My dear, I believe I don't like the noisy gentleman," he said calmly. Madam Kate listened to a cry of, "My papa will come. I won't marry you. I won't." And a faint frown was between her eyes. There came the sound of a coarse laugh. Evidently the gentleman had been drinking. "I think you will," he said significantly. Miss Marriott bit one fingernail. "It seems we must interfere, my Peter." Peter looked rueful and drew his sword a little way out of the scabbard. "No, no, child, put up," said Madam, laughing. "We know a trick worth two of that. We must have the fox out of his earth, though." "Stay you there," said her brother, and went out into the courtyard and called to John, his servant. John came. "Who's the owner of the post-chaise, John?" inquired Mr. Marriott. The answer was severe. "It's a Mr. Markham, sir. Running off to Gretna with a rich heiress, so they say. And the lady not out of her teens. There's wickedness." "John's propriety is offended," murmured Miss Marriott. "We will dispose John, since God seems unwilling. I want a stir made." "Oh, best not meddle," said John phlegmatically. "We've meddled enough." "A cry of fire," mused Mr. Marriott. "Fire or footpads? Where do I lie hid?" "Oh, you are with me already," admired Kate. "Let me have a fire, John, or a parcel of daring footpads, and raise the ostlers." John fetched a sigh. "We've played that trick once before. Will you never be still?" Mr. Marriott laughed. "It's a beauty in distress, John, and Kate must be up and doing." A grunt only was vouchsafed, and the glimmering of a grim smile. John went out. Arose presently in the courtyard a shout and a glow, and quickly an uproar. "Now I wonder how he made that fire," said Miss Marriott, amused. "Well, there's a shed and some straw. Enough for John. Well, it's a fine stir." Mr. Marriott went to the window. "Mine host leads the household out in force." "The wood's so damp 'twill be out in a moment. Do your part, sister." Mr. Marriott vanished into the deserted taproom. Miss Marriott added then to the stir by a scream, close followed by another, and a cry of "Fire! Fire! Help! Oh, help!" The door across the passage was burst open, and a dark gentleman strode out. "What in hell's name—" he began. His face was handsome in the swarthy style, but flushed now with wine. His eye lighted on Miss Marriott, and a smell of burning assailed his nostrils. "What's the noise? Gad, is the place on fire?" He came quickly into the coffee-room, and received Miss Marriott in his unwilling arms. Miss Marriott neatly tripped up her chair, and with a moan of "Save me," collapsed onto Mr. Markham's chest. He grasped the limp form perforce, and found it a dead weight on his arm. His companion, a slim child of no more than 18, ran to the window. "Oh, 'tis only an old shed caught fire away to the right," she said. Mr. Markham strove to restore the fainting Miss Marriott. "Now, compose yourself, madam. For God's sake, no vapours up. There's no danger. Damnation, Letty, pick the chair up." Miss Letty came away from the window towards Miss Marriott's fallen chair. Mr. Markham was tightly clasping that unconscious lady, wrath at his own helpless predicament adding to the already rich colour in his face. "God, the devil take the woman, she weighs a ton," swore Mr. Markham. "Pick the chair up, I say." Miss Letty bent to take hold of it. She heard a door open behind her, and turning, saw Mr. Marriott. Of a sudden Miss Marriott came to life. In round-eyed astonishment, Miss Letty saw that lady no longer inanimate, but seemingly struggling to be free. Mr. Marriott was across the floor in a moment. "Unhand my sister, sir!" he cried in a wonderful fury. Miss Marriott was thrust off. "God's life, 'twas herself," began Mr. Markham, but got no further. His chin came into sudden contact with Mr. Marriott's sword-hilt, nicely delivered, and Mr. Markham fell heavily all amongst the table legs. "Oh, neatly done, i'faith," vowed Miss Marriott. "Down like an ox, as I live. Set the coach forward, Peter, and you, child, upstairs with you to my chamber." Miss Letty's hand was caught in a firm clasp. Quite bewildered, she was swirled away by the competent Miss Marriott. Miss Marriott's brother put up his sword and went out into the court. John seemed to rise up out of the gloom to meet him. "All well, sir?" Mr. Marriott nodded. "Where's the dear gentleman's chaise, John?" John jerked a thumb over his shoulder. "Horses put to?" inquired Mr. Marriott. "Aye. They're ready to be off. The men are in the tap room. It's dry they are after the great fire. There's an ostler to the horses' heads." "I don't want that ostler there," said Mr. Marriott. "Drive the chaise past Stilton, John, and hide it somewhere where the gentleman won't find it too soon." "To hide a chaise and horses, is it?" John growled. "It is, John," said Mr. Marriott serenely. "Tell that ostler I want a horse saddled on the instant. One of our own, if need be. I shall set the dear gentleman after you, John. Godspeed you." "Oh, it's a mad couple you are," said John, but he moved away to where the lights of the chaise shone. Mr. Marriott heard him give the order to the ostler and offer to hold the horses' heads. He heard the ostler run off towards the stables, and himself turned back into the coffee-room, smiling placidly. Miss Marriott had come downstairs again, and was standing by the fallen Mr. Markham, calmly surveying him. "Well, child, is it done?" she asked. The clatter of horses and the rumble of wheels on the cobbles answered her. John was off. They heard the chaise roll away down the road to London. Miss Marriott laughed and dropped her brother a mock curtsy. "My compliments, child. It's you have the head, indeed. Now, what to do for the poor gentleman? Water, my Peter, and a napkin. Observe me, all solicitude." She sank down onto the floor and lifted Mr. Markham's head into her lap. Mr. Marriott was chuckling again as he handed her the water and a napkin. The landlord came hurrying in and stared in horror at what he saw. "Sir, madam, the gentleman's coach is off. Oh, law, madam, the gentleman." "Off, is it?" Mr. Marriott was interested. "Tut, tut. And the lady in it, belike?" The landlord's jaw dropped. "Aye, that would be it. But what's come to the gentleman, sir?" "Good Lord, sir, never say." "The poor gentleman," said Miss Marriott, holding a wet napkin to Mr. Markham's brow. "'Twas the drink turned the head on his shoulders, I dare swear. An accident, host. I believe he won't die of it." "A warning to all abductors," said Mr. Marriott piously. A gleam of understanding shot into the landlord's eyes. "I'm sure he'll be raving mad when he comes to." "A warning to you, good fellow, not to be by," said Mr. Marriott. There was significance in Mr. Marriott's voice. It occurred to mine host that the less he knew of the matter, the better it might be for himself on all sides. He went out discreetly, what time Mr. Markham gave vent to a faint groan. Mr. Markham came slowly back to consciousness and opened heavy eyes. He did not at once remember much, but he was aware of a swollen jawbone which hurt him. A cool hand was placed on his brow, and something wet was laid on his sore chin. He rolled his eyes upwards, groaning, and saw a fair face bend over him, framed in golden ringlets. He stared up at it, trying to collect his bemused wits, and vaguely it seemed to him that he had seen that face before, with its fine, rather ironical blue eyes, and its curiously square chin. He blinked and frowned in the effort to pull himself together, and saw the delicate mouth smile. "Thank God you are better," came a cooing voice. "I have been in an agony. Dear sir, pray lie still. 'Twas a cruel blow, and oh, the misunderstanding. Peter, a glass of wine for the gentleman. There, sir. Let me but raise your head." Mr. Markham allowed it, perforce, and sipped at the wine held to his lips. Some of the mists were clearing from his brain. He raised himself on his elbow and looked round. "Oh, you are much better," cooed the voice. "But gently, sir. Don't, I implore you, overtax your strength." Mr. Markham's gaze came to rest on a flowered waistcoat. He put a hand to his head, and his eyes travelled slowly up the waistcoat to Mr. Marriott's grave face. Mr. Marriott was on one knee, glass of wine in hand. Mr. Marriott looked all concern. Recollection came. "And it's you're the fellow—" Mr. Markham's hand went to his jaw. He glared at Peter Marriott. "Did you— By God, sir, did you—" "Let me help you to a chair, sir," said Mr. Marriott gently. "In truth, you are shaken, and no wonder. Sir, I cannot sufficiently beg your pardon." Mr. Markham was on his feet now, dizzy and bewildered. "Was it you knocked me down, sir? Answer me that," he panted. "Alas, sir, I did," said Mr. Marriott. "I came in to find my sister struggling, as I thought, in your arms. Can you blame me, sir? My action was the impulse of a moment." Mr. Markham was put into a chair. He fought for words, a hand still held to his jaw. "Struggling? She flung herself at me in a swoon," he burst out. Miss Marriott was kneeling at his feet, napkin in hand. Mr. Markham thrust it aside with an impotent snarl. "Oh, you have the right to be angry, sir," sighed Miss Marriott. "It was all my folly. Oh, but, sir, when the bustle started and they were crying fire without, I scarce knew what I did." Her fair head was bent in modest confusion. Mr. Markham did not heed her. "Blame you? Blame you? Yes, sir, I can," he said wrathfully. "A damnable little puppy to—" Words failed him. He sat nursing his jaw and fuming. Mr. Marriott said haughtily, "You're heated, sir, and I believe excusably. I don't heed what you say, therefore. I have asked your pardon for a mistake, understandable, I contend, that I made." "Puppy!" snapped Mr. Markham, and drank off the rest of the wine in the glass. It seemed to restore him. He got up unsteadily, and his hot gaze swept round again. "Letty!" he shot out. "Where is the girl?" "Dear sir, indeed you are not yourself yet." Miss Marriott laid a soothing hand on his arm. "There is no girl here save myself." She was shaken off. "No girl, you say?" roared Mr. Markham, and went blundering towards the room across the passage. "Letty! Letty, I say! Hell and damnation, her cloak's gone!" He came back, his face dark with rage and suspicion, and caught at Mr. Marriott's straight shoulder. "Out with it! Where is she? Where have you hidden her? You don't trick me, my fine sir." Miss Marriott, hovering watchfully, cast herself between them and clung to her brother. "No, no," she cried. "Oh, no swords, I do beseech you. Sir, you are raving. There is no girl here that I have seen." Mr. Marriott put his sister aside. "But wait," he said slowly. "As I remember, there was a lady in the room as I came in. A child with black hair. My sister was overwrought, sir, and maybe forgets. Yes, there was a lady." He looked round as though he expected to see her lurking in some corner. "Damn it, won't serve!" cried out the infuriated Mr. Markham, and went striding off to the door that led into the tap-room, calling loudly for the landlord. Mine host came quickly, with an uneasy look in his face. In answer to Mr. Markham's furious query, he said nervously that in the scare of the fire someone had driven off with his worshipped chaise, and he doubted but that the lady was in it. Mr. Markham swung round to face Peter Marriott again, and there came a red light into his eyes, while his hand fumbled at his sword-hilt. "Ah, you're in this," he snarled. Mr. Marriott paused in the act of taking snuff. "Your pardon, sir?" he asked in some surprise. "A lady gone off in your post-chaise and myself in it? I don't understand you, sir. Who is the lady, and why should she go off so?" "Why, it's churlish of her, I protest." Mr. Markham seemed undecided. "It's no business of yours," he said savagely. "But if I find 'twas you did it—" Now, which way did the chaise go? Towards London, sir, nervously answered mine host. But 'tis only what Tom says. I didn't see it myself, and indeed, sir... Mr. Markham said something between his teeth, at which mine host cast a horrified glance at Miss Marriott. The lady appeared to be unmoved. "Saddle me a horse at once. Where's my hat?" Light dawned on Mr. Marriott. "Egad, it's a runaway, Kate. Faith, sir, it seems my impetuosity was indeed ill-timed. A horse, of course. You should be up with the chaise soon enough. A horse for the gentleman." Mr. Marriott swept out into the court, bearing mine host before him. "It's ready saddled, sir, but Tom says the gentleman ordered it half an hour since," said the puzzled landlord. "Saddled and ready, eh? Then see it brought round to the door, for the gentleman's in a hurry." "Well, yes, sir, but how came it that the horse was bespoke when the gentleman was a-lying like one dead?" "Bespoke? A ruse, man, a ruse. And your man in madam's pay, very like. You'd best keep your mouth shut. Ah, behold the bereft gentleman." Mr. Markham came stamping out with his hat rammed over his nose, and managed to hoist himself into the saddle with the assistance of two scared ostlers. He gathered the bridle up and turned to glare down upon Mr. Marriott. "I'll settle with you later," he promised ferociously, and setting spurs to his horse, dashed off into the darkness. Miss Marriott came out to lay a hand on her brother's shoulder. "The dear gentleman," she remarked. "Very well, child. But what next?" Chapter 2. Arrival of a large gentleman. Brother and sister went back into the coffee-room. As they entered by one door, a little figure tiptoed in at the other and stood poised on one toe as if for flight. "Has he gone?" breathed Miss Letitia. It was Peter Marriott who went forward and took the lady's hand. "Why, yes, child, gone for the moment," he said, and led her to the fire. She raised a pair of big, pansy-brown eyes. "Oh, thank you, sir," she said. "And you too, dear madam." Miss Marriott flushed slightly, whereat the humorous look came into Peter's eye again. He looked down at Miss Letty gravely enough, and pulled a chair forward. "Sit down, madam, and let us have your story, if you please. I should desire to know how we may serve you." "You have served me," bowed the lady, clasping her hands in her lap. "My story is all folly, sir. Wicked folly rising out of the most dreadful persecution." "You shock me, madam." Miss Marriott came to the fire and sat down beside the little lady, who promptly caught her hand and kissed it. "I don't know what I should have done without you," she said fervently, "for I had quite made up my mind I didn't want to go to Gretna Green at all. You see, I'd never seen him in his cups before. It was a terrible awakening. He became altered altogether once we were out of London, and I was afraid a little." She looked up, blushing. "At home, when I saw him, he was so different, you see." "Do I understand, my dear, that you consented to elope with the gentleman?" inquired Miss Marriott. The black curls were nodded vigorously. "I thought it would be so romantic," sighed Letty. She brightened. "And so it was when you hit him," she added, turning to Peter. "It was positively marvellous." "Did you elope with him for the romance of it?" asked Mr. Marriott, amused. "That, and because of my papa," said Letty, "and because of being bored. Oh, have you never known, Mum, what it is to be cooped up and kept so close that you are ready to die of boredom?" "In truth, I've led something of a rover's life," said Miss Marriott. "But continue, child." "I am an heiress," announced Letty in tones the most lugubrious. "My felicitations, Mum," bowed Mr. Marriott. "Felicitations? I wish I were a pauper, sir. If a man comes to the house, my papa must needs imagine he is after my money. He said that of Gregory Markham, and indeed I think he was right, she said reflectively. Ma'am, I think fathers are the veriest plague. We have suffered, child, said Miss Marriott. Then, ma'am, you will feel for me. My papa puts a hateful, disagreeable woman to be my duenna, and I am so guarded and sheltered that there is nothing amusing ever happens to me, in spite of having been brought to town. Then add to all that, ma'am, Sir Anthony Fanshawe, and you will see why I had come to the pitch of doing anything only to get away. I feel we are to deplore Sir Anthony, Kate, said Mr. Marriott. It is not that I am not fond of him, Letty explained. I have always been fond of him, but conceive, ma'am, being required to marry a man whom you have known all your life. A man, too, of his years and disposition. I perceive in you a victim of parental tyranny, child, said Miss Marriott. We consign Sir Anthony to perdition. Letty giggled at that. Oh, never, ma'am. 'Tis a model of prudence and of the virtues, and 35 years old at the very least. Mr. Marriott flicked a speck of snuff from his sleeve. And to escape this greybeard, hence the young Adonis yonder, I suppose. Miss Letty hung her head. He was not very young either, I suppose, she confessed. And I have been very silly and wicked, I know. But indeed I thought him vastly more entertaining than Tony. I mean, you could not for your life imagine Tony excited, or in a scrape, or even hurried. And Gregory said such pretty things, and it was all so romantic. I was misled. The matter's plain to the meanest intelligence, madam, Mr. Marriott assured her. I discover in myself a growing desire to meet the phlegmatic Sir Anthony.